afterwards. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I'm here this morning because Samir has called me, as usual. And when he asked me to talk about the decision-making process, it sent me into an absolute panic. It took me back 20 years to being at work when everybody discussed the decision-making process. And I thought, my goodness me, there's a process. And actually, we all make decisions every day. Some of them are just vastly more important than the decisions that you make about what time you get up in the morning. So my CLL story started 10 years ago. I was first diagnosed, and the first decision that I had to make for myself was that I wanted to know about CLL. I wanted to know everything about it. I wanted to know about the treatment and all the rest of it, which I'm sure is why many of you are here today. So it worked. I took the bold step of coming to a conference like this on my first day and got cornered by Samir, a long story, and subsequently became his patient. The other thing that happened to me at the conference, and I make no bones about this, was after I'd been to 3 conferences, I started getting cornered by trustees, okay? And they can corner you, believe me. And I decided at that point that in order to get more information as well, that becoming a trustee was a really useful thing to do. And it was. I met some fantastic people. CLL has moved on, the Support Association has moved on a long way in the 10 years since I was a trustee, but I honestly could recommend it to anybody. They're great guys, they work really hard, and they do move us forward. Where we've come in 10 years is amazing. So that was me trying to gather my information. I also was one of the first people who helped on the helpline when it was first introduced. I also watched Healthcare Unlocked unfold because it really was just in its early days, and I used to monitor that every morning to make sure that the information that was coming through was good and correct, and I learnt a lot. And then I decided that CLL was dominating my life. There wasn't a day went past when I didn't think about CLL, and I decided at that point that I needed to step back and get on with my life. So I stopped being a trustee, I stopped reading Healthcare Unlocked, I knew all the information I wanted at the time, had a fantastic consultant, and so forward I went. So I had a few years of just enjoying life and what have you. Now my thing about tiredness is that I have to play 18 holes of golf. If I can't play 18 holes of golf, I've got a problem. And gradually I was playing less and less golf, and I was getting more and more tired, and things weren't looking too good. My bloods weren't looking too good either. So then I came to the point of we decided that I needed some treatment. I just want to step back a step. I've just forgotten something. When I decided to step back from all this CLL being in my face all the time, Samir had just started a remote monitoring service where he was, instead of coming up to clinic and to those ghastly clinics where everybody's there and you're wondering what on earth's going on, he'd started the first remote monitoring. So I was able to sit at home in England, in Spain, and have my appointments, which were so useful and still are, because we're still doing it, that, sitting at home, I could think about things before he spoke to me. We started off with FaceTime, and then that got a bit difficult, so we moved on to telephone conversations. But, I could get my questions together. I knew what time he was going to ring, and really within 10 minutes, it always happened. And it was just incredible. It made the stepping back so much easier because I didn't have to go and look at other people in clinic. And for me, it was, and also I didn't have to travel to London because bear in mind, I live in Worcestershire. So it's a long train journey. So that was the bit I'd left out, sorry. What have we got on to next? So after about 4 years of this lovely wait and worry system, it was decided that things were getting a bit difficult, and we ceased the remote monitoring and I started to come up to hospital. And then the decision-making started about what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. And this is awful, and he's sitting there, but, Samir is just amazing. There wasn't a great deal of choice those years ago. The flare trial was around. You could have FCR on the flare trial or ibrutinib, on the, that was it on the flare trial. So it took a little bit of debate about whether I was going to go on the trial, whether I wasn't. Gail was going through the same thing at the same time with her husband. And I chose different ways of getting my support. First of all, obviously my consultant was key to that. I didn't have the luxury of a specialist nurse. In those days, they were a bit more remote than they are now, so I didn't have somebody like that I could talk to. I'm a nurse by background, so in our family, everybody comes to me for advice. So suddenly when I needed advice and help and support, it was a bit more difficult. Also, unfortunately, my husband's first wife had died of cancer. So I couldn't live this at home, and I couldn't talk to him about it because it was too raw and it was too difficult. So I had to go outside for my support and my decision-making. So obviously I used my consultant. There was a fellow trustee of the CLL Support Association, as it was then, who was incredibly knowledgeable about CLL. He wasn't a medic, but he had a lot of knowledge. And I sat down with him one afternoon and we thrashed it all out that, yes, treatment was needed. This was the way to go. There was nothing to lose by going on the trial. So I worked it all out with him, brought it back to the family and said, OK, this is what I'm going to sign up to with Samir's support. So I am one of the very lucky people, and I am lucky. I sailed through my FCR. There are people in this room who don't want to know this. I have never spent a day in hospital with my CLL. I had 6 rounds of FCR. After the first round, I said to Samir, can I go back to Spain on holiday? And he looked at me very pointedly and said no. But I did manage to get there before the end of my 6 rounds. I was just lucky, and I know that. I just was. So by the end of 6 rounds of FCR, I was back playing 18 holes of golf, which is terribly important. So that was where I got to. So I think when I started the trial, I was very disappointed that I didn't get the new drug, that I got FCR. Samir talked me round. I mean, he really did. He spent a long time saying, Pauline, this is good treatment and all the rest of it. And he's just said today that it might be a cure. So that's just fantastic news for me today. Anyway, so that went through and that went ahead. Now I'm fit and well. I play golf, I play netball, I swim, I occasionally look after 10 grandchildren, and any tiredness, as I feel, is usually put down to my age and the kids. And that's my story of CLL. And, I live with it now. It's very much, well, I don't even think about it. This has brought, I've had to think about it to do this. So what are my learning points? Excuse me, I'm just going to... The first one is to gather as much information as you can, which I know you are, you're here, to share and discuss with your medical team. And there is, as Samir was saying, sometimes there are only certain things that are available. But in my case, there was only the FCR, and it worked wonders. So, go with it. Seek help. The Support Association is here. There are very knowledgeable people who can give you that support if you need it and want it. You've obviously got family to talk to as well. And, the medical profession do know this disease inside out, so they really can help with that. So all I want to say now is thank you, Samir. Please don't retire. I really can't cope with that. And I wish you all well for the future. And that's all I've got to say.